Hi guys, and welcome back to another fly tying tutorial. The fly you see in the vise is a black, competition legal black booby. So without further ado, let's get into it. The hook in the vise then is a Hanak H260 barbless hook. This one's at size 8. It's on a heavy wire and it's finished in black nickel. Now the thread I'm going to be using today is the classic waxed thread. It's 6/0. As you can see, it's a red thread. Now I've already added some wax to the thread, and I'm going to catch in just behind the eye of the hook, and I'll run that all the way down to the back. I can then remove my rat's tail, and we're going to add a marabou tail for this one. So it's just simply black marabou. I want to take about a thumbnail's worth. Don't want it too thick. And then just off camera I'm taking away this end over my waist basket, and then I can lay it up. Now I don't want it just hanging at the edge. If you tie it in here, what you end up with is a dip in the width of your body, so you want to make sure you've got that all the way up when you catch it in, just to maintain that width. And then I'll come all the way back down, and then I'm going to come in with my thumb and forefinger in my right hand and pinch the marabou away. Never cut the marabou, you don't want a straight edge with this kind of fly. Just pinch it away with your fingers. Now I've had several requests for more competition size flies, and the Hanak at size 8 actually fits in the competition gauge, and this is a great hook for it. Even though it's on a heavy wire, I really love the long point, and it does help with your hookup rate. Next we're going to come on to the body, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use two different types of tinsel. Now the first tinsel to be tied in needs to be the last tinsel that's going to come over. So in this case it's going to be the mirror flash that will come over last, so I'm going to tie that in first. Now if you were to do it the other way, although it wouldn't be a showstopper, it does affect the way the end of the fly looks slightly, which I don't think would make a hell of a lot of difference to the fish. But the next thing I'm going to put in is the red hollow tinsel, and I'll just catch that in pretty much on top of the mirror tinsel. Now I get an awful lot of requests, as I said, for competition flies, and I think a lot of people, anglers that are not involved with competition, must think that there's lots of secret and special flies, but it's simply not the case. The boys that are fishing in these comps, they're just very good anglers. They've not got any secret flies, or they may have flies that they like to keep to themselves, but they'll not be particularly secret. They're just that they've got an awful lot of confidence in certain patterns, and this is certainly a confidence fly for me. It's one that's done me very well. Now before I bring the red holographic up, I want to adhere it to the thread, and I'm going to use super glue for that. Now as you can see, my brush is a little bit worse for wear, and I don't want to put it anywhere near a fly, so I'm just going to get some super glue onto a cocktail stick and spread it that way. I have got another pot of super glue with a brush, but I'm so tight I just don't want to throw this out until I've finished with the super glue. And no jokes about being Scottish, please. So I'm going to add plenty of extra turns at the front of the fly, and then I'm going to grab my red hollow tinsel, and I'll just use the rotary function on my vise to bring that up. So what that'll do is the super glue will seep out the sides, and then when I come in to bring my mirror tinsel up, it will help to adhere it to the hook. So catch that in place, a few wraps in front, and I can take away the red hollow. Now the mirror tinsel I'll just grab, and I don't want this to cover in its entirety. So you may have seen another fly called the traffic light cormorant, and what happens there is the red hollow is completely covered by this mirror tinsel, but I want to have just the slightest bit of red poking through this fly. So I'm just going to leave it. So what it gives the impression of is like a red rib. You can't. It's difficult to get very consistent turns with this, but if you do your best, then bring it up, and at the head we're going to catch that in like so. Now, booby fishing in all its glory is best done early season, and it's when the fish are generally, after a cold winter, the fish will be sitting a little deeper in the water column, and the boobies are a great way of fishing. You fish them on sunk lines, and they can be devastating. I've had many a bag limit just fishing a single booby on a 10-foot leader. So next I'm going to add in my wing. Again, I'm just coming back to my marabou, and again over my waist bin I'm just going to cut away this excess. Damp down the ends so you get a nice neat end to tie in, and then make sure you get a good chunk of that. There's nothing more frustrating when you've got a fly and you're tying it on, and as you're tightening your knot you pull the wing out the fly because you've not attached it properly, or you've bought one that's not been tied very well. I've experienced both. So that's looking pretty good. Now I'm just going to damp down my thumb and forefinger and pull that wing out the way of the back. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my booby eye, and if you bear with me, I've got it here. So what you see is that it's a little tube. Now I cut these and shaped them myself, and if you want to see how to do that, I'll stick a little link up in the corner there for the video showing how I prepare my booby eyes. It's I call it a little tic tac, and how I'm going to attach it now is I'm going to bring down my thread, and where I've got my hole, I'm going to just wrap it over a couple of times. And what I can do is bring that up until it comes onto the shank of the hook, and then I can come over in a figure of 8 motion. Excuse my fingers, it's difficult to do it without getting your fingers all over it. And then I can grab my whip finisher and cast my thread off at the front here. So the booby eyes, they're not the most rugged thing in the world. So what I want to do before I call the fly done is, again, I'll grab my cocktail stick and some super glue, and these are 4mm eyes, a bit smaller than what I would prefer, to be honest. I like my my boobies big, no pun intended, but I think you just get a lot more erratic movement. But they all have their time of year. I think the bigger eyes tend to work in the spring months, and then as we move in towards May, June, the smaller eyes work much better when you're fishing a washing line type tactic. And there we go, there's a competition legal booby that will catch you an awful lot of fish. If you've enjoyed the video, please consider sharing it, give it a little like, and consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.